Next on our agenda is Dave Raines for Workforce Development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council. I'm Dave Raines. I'm the Director of Workforce Development. Just a reminder that we're a city-county organization. We're formed back in 2007 when they merged or at least 2/3 of the way merged the workforce investment boards. We still have city employees, 11 of them. I'm one of those city employees. We also have 13 county employees as a part of our organization, and then we contract with United Labor Agency for one-stop management and business services, and they provide another approximately 48 FTEs to our.
They provide how many?
About 48 FTEs through their contract. We are partially through our fiscal year already. Our fiscal year starts in July. The bulk of our funding comes from the Department of Labor. In May, we were notified by the state. They get the Department of Labor allocation, then they make a distribution based on a state formula to each of the workforce investment boards. It's kind of a complicated formula, but there's basically 3 buckets. 2 of them, adult and youth, have hold harmless provisions, so the fluctuation can only be so much in those 2 buckets. The 3rd bucket, dislocated worker, which primarily goes to support the people on unemployment compensation. That can fluctuate pretty significantly. There's one component that utilizes your unemployment rate, and if you're 1 tick below the state's average, you get 0 points out of a possible 20. All 3 urban areas this year were 1 tick below or 2 ticks below the state average. So Franklin County took a 19% cut, we took a 23% cut, and Hamilton County took a 26% cut in our overall allocation, significantly higher in that particular dislocated worker bucket. Since that time, and at the time, we were concerned that we would have to significantly reduce the amount of funds that we put into our on-the-job training bucket, as well as funds we had available for workforce individual training accounts for job seekers. That's when the Economic Development Department suggested that they might be willing to put in $1 million for on-the-job training funds. Those funds should last us over the next couple of years. It allowed us then to include some funds in individual training account so we can fund job seekers as well as offset the overall cuts that we expected from the state. The WIB directors went to the state and suggested pretty strongly that they needed to reconsider their practice of taking 25% of the dislocated worker funds off the table, using it for rapid response or major layoffs, and then allocating it later in the program year. And since that discussion with them, we've had about $1.3 million reallocated back to our budget of the $2.2 million that we had cut originally. So we haven't been made whole, but we're looking at about $1 million cut as opposed to one that was closer to 2.2 or 2.3 million in our Workforce Investment Act allocation. The Workforce Investment Act funds used to represent about 85% of our overall operating budget. They represent about 66 or 67% now with the $1.3 million that was just recently returned to our budget. The bulk of the remaining funds is primarily based upon relationships that we've got with various county departments. We work with Job and Family Services to do an application for job readiness program. Everybody applying for cash assistance comes to us. We send them through a 5-day program. If they complete that 5-day program, then they're eligible to apply for cash assistance. We also work with Larry's department on the job training funding, as I mentioned. And then we've got about $500,000 in the scholarship program that we administer for county council as well. Now that program, we've at this point in time, of that $500,000, there's about $345,000 that's obligated. We've got about 100 people that have participated and another 40 that are set up for interviews to take a look at what we might be able to do with them as well. In spite of the cuts in our budget over the last 3 years, we've placed 10,000 people into jobs. Prior to that 3-year period of time, we averaged about 1,500, and prior to that, about 1,000 in a year. So our transition to demand-facing with the business services approach that we take has paid significant dividends, and I think we still reap the benefit of that. I'm a little concerned going forward that the The budget cuts, if they're maintained, and they've required us to sort of move some staff over to county-funded or a new state program that will reimburse us on a performance-based contract through the number of people we place and move off of public assistance. In the event that that funding goes away, I've got about 20 FTEs that are in jeopardy of having to be laid off. But I think we're fine through the program year that goes through June of 2014. It's our 2013 program year. So we believe that we've established solid relationships with the economic development departments at the city and the county. We work hard with both to sign workforce development agreements whenever they get into a loan situation where there's going to be job creation. We tend to be the first point where the new jobs come to see if they can't be filled. So the organization that might be filling jobs, whether it's Flats East Bank or Cleveland Range out in Collinwood, they'll come to us. We'll see if we can't fill those jobs out of our database and assist them in finding people that meet their workforce needs. If we can't, and they've made a good faith effort, depending on the type of job, we may not have access to people that have those skill sets, then they can move on and fill those positions on their own. We still will assist them if they need assistance in that. The other big news, at least in our world, over the last month and a half, has been some significant layoffs. We are actively involved in the Bank of America situation. As soon as they announced the layoff, we reached out to them. We went on site. We provided webinars for employees that included interview skills, resume development, and any other issues that we felt were important, including the services that we would make available to them. And our partners at Job and Family Services, Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, were there as well to talk about the benefits from unemployment compensation that they would accrue. We organized a job fair, had 54 employers there at the Beechwood Recreation Center. About 650 Bank of America employees attended that day. And the intent was to look for organizations or employers that might be looking for people that have the skill sets that the Bank of America employees had, and get those employers in front of those job seekers as quickly as possible, with the possibility that we might be able to move them right into employment from a layoff. So, and avoid having them go on unemployment compensation. That's a sort of a best practice that we employ here whenever we go out to a major layoff. The only request we made to anticipate Councilman Greenspan's question is that we have a sub-fund created that would allow us to track non-Workforce Investment Act funds, and that ensures that we can differentiate between the Department of Labor money that comes in and then whatever other county dollars or other funds that come in for other activities that we've got. So I guess with that, I'll be happy to stop and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. It's time for questions by the council, and starting with Councilman Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the answer to this is no, but I'm trying to get a better handle on a problem here we're facing, and some of what you do and who you interface with in the state, makes me wonder about this. We're looking at, we think, about 29,000 people being removed from the food stamp program soon, and the county perhaps has some responsibility because of that action. And first of all, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And
Yes,
good, because does that impact what you're doing at all? And if not, could you maybe even just help enlighten me, because I'm trying to understand where the county's responsibilities are, or is that somebody else's? Should I be asking somebody else that question?
I believe it's directly related to Job and Family Services.
Yes,
So I think
I know,
Bonner
it is.
Shop would have to take a look at that. If I understand it correctly, it takes people that are currently on receiving food stamps, assistance from the SNAP program, and requires them to sort of be involved in what would be like a work experience, a web program. The problem is the volume is significantly higher than I think they've dealt with in the past. So as I understand what Joe and his team are trying to do, they're trying to evaluate what activities would be acceptable. And if those activities include job searching, then we will definitely partner with them to see if we can't, make our resources available either through our one-stops or their Learn and Earn Center to make sure that.
Also, you might be.
Well, I think we can assist them. Typically, when we focus on job placement, we're looking at full-time employment for 32 hours or above. We don't necessarily administer any programs that provide temporary placement. However, it's possible that job search might be an acceptable activity for these 29,000 impacted people to be involved in. I think Joe's trying to establish, can they do that through an automated environment? And if they can they access computers at our shop, at the county libraries and others to go about job searching and have that count as acceptable activity? So I think there's still work being done. And our position with Joe and his team is if there's a way we can help out, we'll be happy to try to do that.
All right. I realize, Mr. Chairman, that this is budget focused. It's just sometimes difficult to tell the difference between the policy and the budget
Right.
as they cross paths.
Well, and I think what's critical, and we're having the same implications from some policies that are being passed at the state level that we, from our perspective, end up being unfunded mandates. There's a decision made that they think some activity would be great if the individual was involved in it. There's no funds attached to it for us to deal with the additional 5,000 or 6,000 people that may be walking through our front door. And that's at a time when we're consolidating our FTEs and reassigning people to keep them employed.
Oh, thank you. And I just a general final comment. I guess, what I keep sort of becoming aware of as the hearings progress is as much as we know, which is a great deal, there seems to be so much we don't know, and not because any information is being withheld from us, just because everything is a moving target so constantly. That we are making educated guesses, and some of them pretty close, and some of them, out of our control.
Right. I mean, we run into situations where legislation might be passed, and there was just two pieces of legislation at the state level. One requires all local workforce investment boards to be rebranded as Ohio Means Jobs, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. So we won't be Employment Connection. After March of next year, will be Ohio Means Jobs, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County. Mandating the branding change was only accompanied by $14,000. So we'll need funds to be able to change our website, change our signs, change our business cards, change our stationery. Every workforce board got exactly the same amount of money. So Cuyahoga County got the same as Greene County, the WIB there. So we've got some issues that we have in terms of how things are being decided at the state level. To that end, the urban WIB directors have gotten together and formed our own association, a little bit independent from the WIB Directors Association, because we felt the WIB Directors Association is a Senate, and we need a House of Representatives that gives us, some consideration for the size of the issues that we deal with. So those 5 counties, Cuyahoga, Summit, Franklin, Montgomery, and Hamilton, represent 75% of the placements that are done in the state. We'd like to have access to, the director of ODJFS, the director of the Ohio Workforce Transition Department out of the governor's office. We think it's appropriate for us to have those conversations because I'd like to see the state have a calculator that does something besides divide evenly by 20. I'd like one that recognizes the impact that the urban areas have and the needs that we've got.
Yes. All right. Well, proportional representation has always been sort of something we've been brought up to believe was
Yes.
a part of our culture,
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
My pleasure.
We have Councilwoman Conwell, then Rogers, and then Greenspan.
Through the chair to the director, you stated there was 10,000 new created jobs?
10,000 individuals moved into jobs, not newly created jobs.
Okay.
We matched job seekers with employers looking for employees, and that was over a 3-year period of time.
And what do those jobs pertain? And you don't have to list them all today. Could you provide council with a list of those jobs?
Sure.
And what was the average rate of pay for those jobs?
The average rate of pay is around $13 to $14 an hour.
And out of these, how does this make a dent in the unemployed number in the county? We do keep that number, correct?
Well, I think our unemployment rate has stayed at around 7.3%, give or take. It's floated up and floated down a tenth here and there. And I think what's troubled me is we've placed people into jobs, and as that's been occurring, we've also been getting notifications of significant layoffs. So just in the last 3 or 4 months, between Bank of America and Benvenue, there's 2,000 employees that are at risk of losing their jobs there. Now, our challenge is to find employers that are looking for those skill sets and match them up, but you won't have a one-to-one match necessarily. So although we may put 10,000 people into jobs, there may be 40,000 looking for employment, over that period of time.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Rogers.
Thank you. I've noticed just on your job placement rate that you've had 96% in 12 and 96% in 13, but you have a target of 85% for 14 and 15, and I'm wondering what's the justification for lowering the target?
I think we're estimating or assuming that by having to move staff away from Workforce Investment Act activities and over into application for job readiness in this new Ohio Works Incentive Program, that the actual placement rate may suffer because the caseloads for those employees working on Workforce Investment Act activities have gone up because there's fewer of them now. We had to transition people over. And, in the event that this Ohio Works Incentive Program is one that we don't generate performance-based revenue on and we can't support the staff, those staff are at risk of being laid off. Same thing with the application for job readiness program. That's supported out of TANF funds from Job and Family Services in the event that the participation rate goes over 50% and they're satisfied at the local level and state level that we've met what we need to do, that program could cease to exist and we'd have staff that would be in jeopardy then too. So it's based upon, now we're definitely going to see if we can't continue to maintain our high level of placement, but I just felt that it was appropriate for me to recognize with the state that if they continue to cut funds, they can't assume that we're going to continue to perform at the same level.
Sure. And this next question may pertain more to Director Rubino, but I'm looking at Schedule 3 on page
My head's hurting.
the Cuyahoga County Educational Assistance Program, third quarter projection of 500,000. I'm assuming that's the 500,000 that we gave the Employment Connection, but we also did about 370,000 to College Now that was supposed to be out of that same fund.
Yeah, that's in the early childhood operating budget.
Early childhood operating budget.
That's where the funding was appropriated, and then we transferred general fund dollars to support that appropriation.
When we discussed the legislation doing that, we had talked about, and early on, I believe when we were first doing the budget, we had allocated $6 million. It was supposed to be set aside into the Educational Assistance Fund.
You identified a reserve on general fund dollars, and that's what we're using to fund both the $500,000 or the 380 and the $500,000, I believe.
Is that reflected in this other strategic initiatives under Section 2, under Schedule 4?
It was identified as part of the 2012-2013 biennium. It's not in the 2014-15 biennium report.
So I guess what happens with the balance of that $6 million?
Well, council can continue to incrementally appropriate dollars for that program. It's going to be out of the general fund, though, unless we identify other funding sources.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilman Greenspan.
Great, thank you. Help me understand here on the recommended budget adjustments on page 37. The last sentence says there is no overall budget impact to the, I'm assuming is the reduction of the DOL money. Explain that.
We don't utilize any general fund for our operational budget. So when the DOL funds got cut, either we had to find a way to reduce our expenses, which we've done through a number of ways, negotiate our leases, for example, or reallocated staff to other funded positions that aren't necessarily Department of Labor funding, so.
Okay, so that's what you mean by that.
Right.
So if I look, going back and looking on page 36, and it appears, and you stated so, there's about $2.7 million projected reduction in funding, correct?
Yes. Although since that time, we did get a notification from the state that they would allocate $1.3 million out of their rapid response funds based upon our use of those funds in the past and their desire to recognize the significant impact that the cuts had on a lot of the WIBs across the state.
So the deficit now is $1.4 million.
It's about $1.4 million, yeah.
And that $1.3 million the state's going to provide, is that for 14 and 15?
It's for through program year that ends June 30th of 14.
Okay, so 15, part of, so 15's,
15, part of program year 2014 for us, which starts in
Right.
July of 2014 and goes through June of 2015, is at risk.
is at risk?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're only funded basically from now till June
Yes.
30th, 2014.
Yes.
And with that, and I noticed there was a note here, the decrease, going back to the budget overview, this decrease has caused a reduction in contracts and client services.
Yes.
I asked the question, did you make any requests that, written or oral? Did you make a request for the county to backfill the funding deficit, the funding gap, so you wouldn't have to, one of our charges obviously is economic development. You can't have a strong economic development activity unless you've got an educated and ready to work workforce. And your agency provides that service. I'm just curious why, did you make a request from the county to have that money backfilled so you continue to provide the same level of service? You're not asking for an increased level, just the same level.
We, couple things happened that I think allowed us to be able to feel comfortable that we could continue to provide services at about the same level. One was when I made it known to the county executive and director Benders that we were going to take this hit from Workforce Investment Act funding. They then notified us that they would be willing to put some on-the-job training funding and make that available to us. This allowed us to then take funds that we were going to try to maintain in that and move it over to other areas where we felt we were going to have to make other cuts. So that helped us balance it out. The second is this Ohio Works Incentive Program. We think we can make work for us. It's performance-based. You get reimbursed every time you place somebody, move somebody from public assistance into a job, and then you get another payment if they're retained for 90 days. We're going to see if we can't find a way to make that generate enough revenues to offset some of the other expenditures. And then finally, because of some of the layoffs, the major layoffs, and our engagement with those, we can request of the state additional funding to support staff time that's dedicated to those rapid response activities and events. And those staff will typically move from general operating funding over to the emergency funding for those. And that helps us maintain our funds a little bit. So we're seeing if we can't make sure that we don't find a way we don't cut. Although we did reduce some of our contracts, especially in the youth services area, somewhat to reflect the reduction in that allocation. But I think the actual service delivery is going to end up being about the same.
So you think you believe you can operate as you have been, provide the level of services, you just have a different revenue model now?
Yeah, I think because of the allocation of employees more towards the public assistance side, and we're doing that through that application for job readiness program and this new Ohio Works Incentive Program. The likelihood that we'll be able to get the same level of placement is going to be potentially challenging because those typically are individuals that have more barriers to employment. But we still think we can shoot high to see what we can do relative to placements.
I guess where I'm trying to go with this is understand the importance that your agency plays in the role you provide. Should this council consider additional funding to help you reach that goal?
Understanding that the county has challenges and there's certainly a number of needy programs. What I'd probably ask is that in the event that we get news in May that we're going to take a significant hit again on the allocation from the feds, that we would maybe come back and have that conversation then.
Unfortunately, we need to look at that now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to predict how that might look, and the way our funding works is we can maintain some carryover funds. So Councilman, it'd be hard for me to suggest what we might be looking to do. I do think that the approach that was taken this year, where funds were made available to offset the reductions, and they were specifically allocated to on-the-job training, gives us the flexibility to move some money within our budget.
I'm just trying to make sure that we really address everything. So, I mean, I'm kind of
Thank
keeping
you.
a little posted here, so I'll put it on kind of a watch list
Thanks.
activity here. But so make sure you need what you need to do your job.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Jones. And Simon is next.
I want to come back to the workforce participation rate. A year and a half ago, when I first learned of what it was, I talked with Joe Gantner and looked to hold his feet to the fire. So we were at the low 20 percentile back then, and now we're to the goal of 50%.
I think we
we're
are.
much closer.
Right.
Again, just elaborate, and I know you've talked already on it, but elaborate what you have done or what was done in your department to help move that needle a little closer to the 50 percentile.
We were asked to see if we couldn't develop a program that would require individuals that were considering applying for cash assistance to first come to us and go through a 5-day program that would allow them to, that would require them to participate. And if they didn't participate, they would be, their ability to be able to apply for cash assistance might be delayed. Now, my sense is that, if you reduce the number of people that are applying for cash assistance, your participation rate may be positively impacted by that. I don't know that that was the intent, but that could have been an outcome. Our approach, and this is one that I think Joe and his team supported, was if they're going to come to us for 5 days, make those 5 days count. So we put together a curriculum that has expectations for the individual to be on time at 10 o'clock, to be there till 4 o'clock, and during that period of time, the 5 days that they're with us, they're given some information about how to access job opportunities through the automated system. That we develop a resume for them. We provide them with interview skills. We provide them with techniques in terms of how to do job searches on their own. And they walk out the door with skill sets that they didn't have when they first walked in. So, if we get we had 2,400 people referred to us. I think about, and I'm going to check my numbers just to be sure, 2,446 potential cash recipients were referred. 2,000 actually attended at least one workshop, and 1,400 attended all 5. So there was a drop-off rate, and I think as people are required to come in for 5 days, some make a decision that they may want to look do something differently. Others take advantage of the 5 days and go through the process, and then if they complete it, then they are determined eligible to apply for cash assistance.
Okay. Speak to the training that you've done in the area of the biotech companies that are growing in the area.
There's a couple ways that we support training. One is for the job seeker, and if there's job seekers that are interested in a training program that gives them skill sets that makes them employable in that area, then we certainly try to support that. The other approach we take is training that we provide directly to the employer. And in those situations, we can do either on-the-job training or customized training. Customized training is an example of that would be, we're currently working with Cleveland Clinic. They have a large number of patient care nurse assistants that they're trying to hire. Because of the volume, if we paid on an individual basis, they could quickly utilize quite a bit of our funding. So we negotiate a contract that's based on actual cost, and I think it's a more efficient way for us to meet their needs. We also get credit for the placements that are made. For the biotech companies, what we'll typically do, especially if they go through either the city or county or both economic development departments, we will search our database to determine if there are individuals that might have skill sets that could be a fit. So a company like Benvenue, for example, if they're laying off people that have expertise in high-level biotech manufacturing efforts, we'll find those companies that are looking for employees and try to match them together.
And my last question is, some of the inner-ring cities that I represent, they are focusing on youth challenges, issues with the youth. They're looking to put together roundtables. Youth, have you participated in any, or would you be amenable to being a part of the discussion around dealing with the behavior of the youth in some of our cities and finding productive things for them to do?
We'd be happy to. I mean, 30% of our budget goes to youth services. So we deliver services to about 1,000 youth through the contracts that we have with 11 service providers. Of those 1,000 youth, about half are in the inner-rig suburbs and about half are in the city of Cleveland. And of those 1,000, 700 are in high school and 300 are out of high school and trying to get their GED and find some career path that makes sense for them. So we've got an active youth council that's chaired by Gail Agahi of the Cleveland Clinic, and a great manager of our youth services, Candace James. And I think if you were interested in having us get engaged, first of all, we're probably already engaged, but if there's some situation where you'd like us to be present, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Simon?
Question about the job fair you had, specifically with regard to the BOA layoffs in Beechwood. Do you
Yes.
have any quantified data yet, how successful that might have been?
What we've got so far is we were able to recruit 54 employers that were actually looking for employees. It wasn't just, come and hand out literature. It was you have specific jobs that you're trying to fill, and the individuals that are impacted by the layoffs have the skill sets that you're looking for those jobs. We had about 660 Bank of America employees participate on that day. I think 30 to 40 people were hired that day on the spot. And then we're collecting additional information to determine how many might get hired as a result of that. We will monitor that, and if you're interested, I'll be happy to make that available. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to mention that we're not running on schedule, and if this continues, I'm thinking about that after tomorrow's session, instead of adjourning, that we may recess until 3 o'clock on Wednesday after the Health and Human Services Committee. So the ones that we don't get to, we would ask you to come back. But I'm hoping that we're going to start making a little better progress, and next is Veterans Service Commission, Bob Schlondorn.
Mr. Chairman, I will do my best to keep you on schedule. So
It's mostly not been the directors that have been the problem.
I am the outgoing director. I want to introduce the county council to the incoming director. Stand up. This is John Rice. He was hired by the Board of Commissioners of the Cuyahoga County Veterans Service Commission. He started today. So instead of him being up here on this occasion, I'm going to do this for the last time. So
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
now, I sent you all my budget in May, and you have copies of it from today. What I thought I would do is just tell you kind of where the money goes and the amount of traffic we see. Last year, and I'm going to go through the end of last year, we saw 10,608 clients for financial assistance. We saw 27,000 clients for service work. We approved 89% of the applications that we had, and 46% of our budget has gone for financial assistance and client services. So we're quite proud of the stewardship that we have on the funds that are allowed to us. You often have questions about our budget. If you have any now, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Okay.
I can't answer. Mr. Greenspan's doesn't count.
We're gonna start and ask if Ms. Conley has any questions on this area.
I don't really have any questions. I mean, I have the same concerns. I know you have this tuition reimbursement program, which nobody else in the county has, but you're a separate entity. My concern is with the entire statute, and Mr. Thorndor knows, I think he somewhat agrees with me that the mission of the Veterans Service Commission it's probably changed over the century or so it's been in existence. So I think they do the best they can, and we get the extra money back that, I always say extra money is an oxymoron, but we get the money that you don't spend, and we've allocated that to veterans programs, which has been
We got a lot of good compliments from the folks that you did allocate the money to. I think Cleveland State, Tri-C, and Workforce Development. So there were people that benefited from that.
Yeah, but as I've made it very clear, I hope at some point the legislature would tweak this program so that they could use these for more social services, but you're limited in the way that you can
Yes,
do
we
it,
are.
so.
And I'm glad you appreciate that, and I think you've taken steps to do what you can, so.
Right. I mean, we want the money to go to the veterans. We don't want to reduce anything, but I think that we would get more bang for our buck if we would use them some other ways.
Some of the money that we spend is money that other agencies don't have to spend. We spent $1 million on rent and mortgages last year. We spent $500,000 on food. So, you know, it's a need that's being met, and it's being met by funds that are set aside, so, for the veterans.
Okay. Councilman Greenspan? No? Anyone else? Yes. Councilman Germana?
Yes, sir.
Well, I just wanted to say that I was one of the numbers in the client services, trying to sort out, you know, it was this time that my mother needed to go into a nursing home, and found out that since my dad was a veteran, I thought I'd do it myself and go through the VA, and what a mistake.
I hope we were able to help you.
And then I decided to go to the Veteran Service Administration. Was hooked up with Larry Amato, and he's
Right.
done a fantastic job. So
And
I firsthand-
that's our service department, yes.
firsthand service, and for any veteran, if you know any veteran now, in this particular case, I'm a veteran, but this was concerning my father and my mother. So
Well, I'm glad you were able to.
please do not hesitate to use the service, because they're experts in dealing with the VA, the bigger.
Yes, and
the
it's so
bigger
much
VA.
easier to go through us than to go through the VA. And our folks trained for 18 months just to be able to do that for the vets, so
Thank you.
they're well-trained. Well, thank you for the compliment.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes, through the chair, just wanted to know briefly in regards to the Fisher House. There's a development of the Fisher House. Is there any way that your budget can accommodate helping that? Yeah.
No. For the same reason that Ms. Conley talked about, we can only help individual veterans. We are working with the Fisher House, with Mr. Sweeney and Mr. DeShant. All of my commissioners are members of service organizations, the American Legion, the VFW, the DAV, et cetera, and they go back to their posts to preach the gospel on the Fisher House. So we know that they need to raise money. We are helping them do that, but we can't do it monetarily.
Are you taking up an offering?
Well, sure.
$3 million, just
we don't.
remember
It's
that.
$3 million, I know.
Okay.
Money well spent, though.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Miller. Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Mr. Tim Daly.
It's Mr. Garfield, actually.
Mr. Garfield, is that?
One
No,
of my other personas.
He's a Garfield impersonator.
Oh, okay.
President Garfield.
Mr. Garfield, okay. Tim Daly. Okay.
Good afternoon, Council. Once again, it's a pleasure to report on the activity of the Commission. I find the right button. Okay. As everybody knows, our mission is to maintain and operate and preserve the Soldier Sailors Monument in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code, Section 345.13, 345.14. Currently, we do have 11 members on our board. 2 of the terms will be expiring on November the 5th of 2013, and I know that action is currently being taken to address that. We will also have an additional 3 terms which will be ending shortly on April 15th of 2014, just to make the council aware so we can begin the process in an appropriate manner. Currently, we are scheduled for 3 employees. However, currently we only have 2. We lost a employee to retirement in October of 2012. We hired a new veteran in March. He decided to resign on July 7th, and we currently are waiting for the final background check of an applicant, and we hope to have that done in the next day or two. And we're hoping to bring him on board very shortly, which will bring us back to the 3. So it's been a challenging year running the monument with 2 people versus 3. Once again, we're interested in promoting public interest, increasing our visitation, and improving our images on the state, local, and national level. Our statistics speak for itself. We've been very active once again this year with a projected total of 138 activities for this year, and that is a continued increase. Our attendance in 2012, with the change in the commission, I was able to institute revised museum practices that allowed us to capture a more accurate attendance figure. And so in 2012, we broke 35,000. This year to date, we're at 31,000. We expect to break 35,000, and our target next year is 2014. We've been trying very desperately to pay attention to what's going on downtown. We were asked to participate in Navy Week and Marine Week. We participated with the planning of the senior games and with the tall ships. And by us engaging the community, especially in the downtown, it has allowed us to take advantage of the major numbers. Our major thing that we did this year, though, is we changed our hours during the summer. We changed our hours from 9 to 4, which is our traditional fall through spring. We went to a 10 to 6 o'clock. And that was a major increase in that. And next year, our goal is to go from Memorial Day to Labor Day, 7 days a week from 10 until 6. Currently, we are on target to end this year in the black. Unfortunately, I have the old proposed budget number, but we do see an increase, and we thank the the council for their consideration of increasing our budget for the next 2 years. Our major items that we're going to be dealing with is a replacement of flagpoles. Hurricane Sandy took 2 of our 4 original 1894 flagpoles out. The other 2 are damaged. We received money through FEMA, and that is in the process of being taken care of. That will be over $66,000. Our 12.5% is $8,500, and that money has already been earmarked in this year's budget for that. We will begin this year because of the 2014 capital budget. We received the $10,000 to begin the development of the preservation and our maintenance manual. This will allow us to properly resolve our additional needs that were listed in our 5-year capital campaign plan that was submitted last year. We have begun the serious investigation of obtaining the National Landmark designation. This will allow us to receive resources from other organizations that we have not been able to tap into currently. We continue to be actively engaged, and I thank the council's particular support of the discussions during the renovations of Cleveland's Public Square. It seems that they need to be reminded, the organization needs to be reminded of the sanctity of our quadrant, and the supporters of this council have assisted us greatly in bringing that message to the parties that need to hear it. The one thing we would like to bring up is just a reminder that our formal office is located in the County Archives building. That is the office in which I secure all of the formal records of the commission together with our personnel commission records. And with the changes in the perceived changing of the County Archives building, we will need to make sure we have a secure location for the monument to retain its permanent records. Our goal, we did receive a $10,000 grant from the commission, from the county, for actively engaging the veterans. With the decrease of our employees, we have not had the opportunity to actively engage in that. With the bringing on of the 3rd individual, we're hoping to begin those programmings. And finally, we continue to look at developing collaborative opportunities such with Downtown Cleveland Alliance, Positively Cleveland, Historic Gateway, and the Old Stone Church. And in particular, I'm pleased to announce that last week I was in Tennessee at the Lincoln Memorial University, and I was one of 3 keynote speakers at the National Congress of the Military Order of the Loyal Legion, a Civil War descendancy group. That university has one of the largest Lincoln collections in the United States, and we will begin discussions next week to bring in a special Lincoln exhibit for 2015 in conjunction with the assassination and burial of President Lincoln. So our influence is moving ahead. We were asked to represent the monument at the National Park Service at Put-in-Bay as part of the bicentennial. Our reputation is growing, not only within the state, but also nationally. And I thank the council's additional support of our continued mission of remembering our boys in blue and remembering the sacrifice of those who continue to be in harm's way. So at this time, I'd like to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just kind of want to reiterate a point that Mr. Daly made, and I think that everyone on council should really be aware of it, that the county owns that quadrant of the square. So when they talk about all these renovations of the square, that's all well and good, but we own that section, and the city or anybody else can't just come and start talking about moving trees, and if you move anything on that monument, you have problems with the historical register. He and Mr. Daly and I think Mr. Prassi and I went to a meeting, and I had to make it clear, hey, you guys got great plans, but that's our land, and don't bother unless you get our permission. So, but other than that, I think that they're really doing it. You should stop in there. It's really some interesting things.
Okay. Councilman Greenspan.
Just my standard question. Did you ask verbally or in writing for any additional appropriations?
Nothing in the operational budget or key issues were listed in last year's 5-year capital campaign.
Did you readdress that request this year?
We are in discussions with the Public Works. We will be meeting on Friday to move forward with the maintenance manual. Once the historical maintenance manual is completed, that will provide us a roadmap to address the other issues.
So you may be coming back as a result of your meeting Friday and requesting more money?
Any of that money would come out of the capital campaign funding, not out of the general operating fund, is my understanding, sir.
Right, yeah, it's all somewhat, not necessarily the same bucket, but it's still county money. So is there any money currently in that CIP appropriated for what you're asking for, or would this be a new ask?
The $10,000 was approved and is already in the budget for the operation manual. And then once we see what the experts suggest with regards to the operation, we will have a better idea.
Okay, all right. Will you please follow back up with Mr. Miller on what the result of that meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? Ms. Simon?
Sure. Just a question about Navy Week, and what exactly were you asked to do with regard to that event?
It started with Marine Week last year, and we were brought to the table, and we actually brought in the archivist from Quantico. And what was nice was we brought it in because it was a national organization. They paid for him, and it only cost us $160 to provide a free public program with the archive. We also hosted the representatives of the Korean Commemorative Commission on Friday to put the word out to the celebrations for the commemorations. As a result, they brought us into Navy Week specifically to assist in helping the Navy Week fill out their scheduled programming. As a result, we were able to bring in the historian from the USS Constellation, the Civil War ironclad, who discussed the role of the Navy in the War of 1812. Once again, the federal government picked up that tab, and it only cost us $160 for the rental of the Old Stone Church. And because of those two events, we were able to cut a deal with Tall Ships. The cost to rent out a table originally was $1,000. We went to Tall Ships and said, if we give you volunteer hours, would you be able to provide us a free table? I went to my son's union veterans, James A. Garfield. We provided 24 5-hour shifts of volunteers. They provided us a free table where we had a station at Tall Ships throughout the day. All 4 days, we saw 1,295 visitors come in during those 4 days because the people were already downtown. All they had to do was go up West 3rd and turn left. Because of those activities, we were asked to represent the monument at the National Park Service, and Blanca, who is the superintendent of the Park Service in Put-in-Bay, issued a personal invitation for us to represent the monument on one of the 4 ships that went out on the day of the battle, and we were actually present for the wreath laying in Lake Erie with the descendants of Albert Hazard Perry. So we're doing quite well in bringing our reputation up, and I was very pleased to have the opportunity to speak in Tennessee, and we have this wonderful potential of building upon this relationship, not only sociably, but also intellectually. One other thing that happened last year is in June, I was asked to give a speech at an international historical conference. That conference was held in June in Akron. They will publish their proceedings. The monument will be receiving a published article as a result of that.
Yeah, just very briefly, Mr. Daly and some other people, the people involved in the Garfield Monument, the Garfield Home, we're trying to work on getting a trail, or, so people would, all these Ohio historical places would be connected. So, you go to one, you can go to other, and, add to the history of Ohio, but also make it convenient and make it a tourist destination for people.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And next on our agenda is Soil and Water Conservation District, Ms. Jan Ribka, Executive Director. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, council members, chairman. It's delightful to be here and really welcome the opportunity. And as I was telling Councilman Miller earlier, that after 10 years, it took 10 years before I felt that really the county recognized us as an agency that had been around for 65 years, 63 at that time. The new county government has been really wonderful and very, very receptive and very supportive in a lot of our efforts. And it speaks well to the department heads, many of whom you've heard here today. Our mission is to provide, to promote conservation through stewardship, education, and technical assistance. And right now, we've been undergoing, we're not only going to redo our website, that's kind of in production right now, but also we're looking to do some rebranding. And we called together many of our stakeholders who worked with our consultant and to talk about who is this agency, who are we, the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District. And when they, as they boiled it all down, I thought it was really important to note they kind of expressed what we've always thought, and that's that value and connectedness of soil and water together. Soil and water are the two fundamentals, the building blocks of everything that we do on our land. And to be able to run and operate a county agency that really focuses on those resources, I think is incredible. And we have so many opportunities in this county. Our program is countywide, although I'm happy to say that because of the efforts that we do, that we also cross county boundaries. We've been asked to share our knowledge and our technical expertise with conservation districts, Medina and Lorain, and many of our projects go across county boundaries as well. We provide right now direct services to 25 of the 59 communities in Cuyahoga County, and that's related to their Clean Water Act requirements. We provide oversight for projects that help protect our sensitive lands and water quality and restore habitat. That's through our watershed programs. We're really focusing on soils as an important environmental and economic resource, and we're doing that through seeing how we can restore our urban soils because there are so many benefits to healthy soils. And also, I think we've been instrumental in the dialogue to look at how we beneficially reuse our soils. As I mentioned, we also have regional educational efforts, and we've teamed up with our partners in Northeast Ohio, not just to do education, but also to tackle some problems like what we're seeing going on in the western basin of Lake Erie with the harmful algal blooms. Our programs, I know the three basic programs in soil and water are education, the watershed and stewardship activities, and our stormwater program and the technical assistance. You've probably seen those rain barrel workshops and the rain gardens that are sprouting up. That's the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District. Right now, this year, 500 rain barrels were distributed through our Make 'em and Take 'em workshops. Stream cleanups, reducing the effects of pollution just through education, getting people involved in activities. And like I said, then doing that educational outreach to help people understand that what we do on our land is going to affect Lake Erie. And that is one of the Great Lakes. It's a source of our drinking water, and it's a huge environmental driver in Greater Cleveland and beyond. Our watershed programs continue to, I think, are two of the most successful programs in the state of Ohio. Over $1 million, a couple $1 million in funding to do projects that are, again, go across watershed boundaries, go across municipal boundaries, and are bringing not just dollars into Cuyahoga County, but also help, those dollars help then support other jobs because we're hiring consultants and professionals to do those projects. The picture there in the middle is a picture of Wildwood State Park. We received $1.4 million in funding from the US EPA to do a stream restoration and wetland creation project. That project's helping with flood control. It's provided new habitat. It's provided fishing opportunities. It has been on the tour, on tours and featured in many presentations over the past year, and we look forward to highlighting it again next year. Our stormwater program is a model for providing technical assistance and compliance assistance to the communities that we work with. We're kind of their feet on the ground, providing that assistance that they don't really have the time for and at a low cost. So we can just provide that assistance and expertise to help them meet those requirements. We're helping the county land bank, again, with looking at soils. As you know, we have many, many vacant parcels, and I think in the city of Cleveland it's something like 3,000. Working with the land bank, we're looking at, before we fill those basements with clean fill, which really has no definition of what that clean fill is comprised of. We're looking at this soil to determine, is there something we can do better to that land when we go to, prepare it for its next use? Is there something that we can do that's a little bit better than what we're doing right now? And that conversation with the land bank is ongoing. We call it rebuilding our brown infrastructure. We're doing rapid field assessments, and we're providing that training also for the National Park and for Cleveland Metro Parks. And that's that educational assistance. We also provide handle a multitude of calls from just normal citizens, everyday landowners in Cuyahoga County that call our office asking for assistance related to drainage or erosion or the stream on their property. And we feel real good about being able to get people to where they need to go next. Our budget is pretty small. We have a staff of 8.5 people. You can see it's going to be about just over $700,000 in revenues. That's not including small grants, so it will be higher than that. And I'm projecting our expenditures to be around that $700,000 figure as well. I think we're very fiscally conservative, very nimble. We're always operating in the black. We are extremely grateful for that $75,000 that we receive from the county. Those dollars are matched by the state. We are the largest county in the state of Ohio, the most urban. Those dollars that come back are dollars that deserve to come back to Cuyahoga County, state tax dollars that come back to Cuyahoga County. You can see that we leverage county dollars 7 times over. So we're very, very appreciative. Won't need money. We've operated on that 75 or less for the last 12 years, and I think we're doing a really, really good job, and so we're very grateful for everything that you provide to us. Our successes are many. You can read about it in the highlights that I provided you, so I won't go into that too much. Hundreds of volunteers, lots of stakeholders. One thing, and I wish Councilman Schron was here, our Lunch and Learn series this year, we call them Toolbox Talks, and we've featured businesses in the city, in the county, and in the region. They have come in to address municipal leaders, engineers, and some of the stormwater coordinators, the municipal stormwater coordinators, to connect them with businesses that can help them do what they need to do. One business, he's actually up in the Detroit area, is working now with Broadview Heights to implement some new drainage. It's a wonderful project. So kind of connecting people to those resources, helping businesses grow too, is very, very important. And I also want to call attention to the urban agriculture. We have our federal sister, the Natural Resources Conservation Service in district. We have a field office in Cuyahoga County. 22 seasonal high tunnels have been funded, partially funded through federal cost share dollars. That's bringing more money into Cuyahoga County. 22 of those seasonal high tunnels, it's for urban agriculture, extending those growing seasons, and that's amazing. Our vision for 2014, continuing to provide that assistance to our 25 communities, collaborating to restore our urban soils, continuing to provide assistance to our county landowners. You see that glass of green water? That is actually water that was taken out of the western basin of Lake Erie. Yes, that is algae. That's what it looks like. Working to try to prevent that problem from happening in here in our central basin of Lake Erie is just huge, and that's one of those regional projects talking about. The cost of those algal blooms in the western basin, the cost to recreation, the cost to fishing charters, the cost to waste water treatment plants is just, it's a phenomenal cost, and if we can prevent it from happening here, that's going to be key. Anyway, and then next year, look forward to unrolling our new website and our new communication materials. We're really, really excited about that. So once again, thank you for your support and for everything. Again, all these county departments have been awesome, really helping us, and we appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Ms. Conwell.
I just have one through the chair. So the budget, the recommended budget for 2014 and 2015, both of them increased a few $1,000s. Is that due to the rebranding?
Oh, no, our branding came out, for the consultants to help us with our branding. No, that came out of this year's budget.
Okay. And so can you explain that, the increase? It's a little increase.
Yeah, program, salaries, the cost of benefits, of course, dealing with that type of materials, the people that we use. We have a consultant that helps us with our bookkeeping and computers. So those general costs, it's, a couple % increase overall.
Thank you.
The county's cost stays the same at $75,000.
Yes.
Ms. Simon.
Thank you. Those tunnels you're talking about were to extend the
The
growing.
high tunnels. Mm-hmm.
Did you have one at Earthfest?
It's
like a greenhouse?
It's like the little display, yes.
Okay. And Councilman Greenspan's been asking this question all day, so I don't know. Is there anything that you had requested in terms of your budget? You were satisfied with the 75, or did
We're
you ask
satisfied.
For, okay.
We are keeping our eyes on what's that?
Oral or written requests, I know it.
Yeah.
But
we're kind of keeping our, eyes open and ears to the ground. A lot of changes coming from the state, but right now we're good, and we're just going to continue to work hard and show you that we can do what we can do on the budget that we have.
And you have a rain garden at our county airport, right?
We do,
Yep.
and
So-
we do. at the county airport and around town. So, thanks. Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. On we go. Solid Waste Management District, Diane Bickett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council, for the opportunity to present today about the Solid Waste Management District. Our mission is very simple. It's to promote sustainable and economical solid waste management practices within the cities and businesses and institutions of the county. We're a small agency of 6 people. We are governed by a board of directors, a 3-member board chaired by Julian Rogers. And we are self-funded by a fee that is assessed on all waste going to landfills that comes from Cuyahoga County. So that brings in about $1.9 million in revenue to us every year. In your packet before you, there is a pie chart that shows you a depiction of our budget for next year. This is a budget that was approved by our board 2 weeks ago at its board meeting. It's a budget of about $1.9 million, and the pie chart just shows you how we allocate our funds throughout the year. Happy to report that all of our programs and services are benefit all the communities in the county, as well as hundreds of businesses, the general public, and institutions through our grant programs, our special waste collections. In our budget this year, we have one new initiative, and that is to provide some funding to support an environmental law enforcement program. It's a cooperative project with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office. We are providing some funding to help support environmental crimes unit that will patrol the streets of Cleveland and East Cleveland and other suburbs that are experiencing problems with open dumping of scrap tires and solid waste. So that was our one new initiative included in the budget, as well as funding to purchase a new van for our agency.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we appreciate the concise presentation. Any questions? Ms. Simon.
Just a quick question on the environmental enforcement unit. You're working with the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office as well, right?
Yes, we are. The county prosecutor has assigned an assistant county prosecutor to work on bringing these felony crimes to the grand jury. So this is a very new initiative that we hope will start to crack down on some of the illegal dumping we're seeing in the county.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much. And next we have Ohio State University Extension, Marie Barney.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the privilege to be here. I was reminded to be brief. Brevity has never been a strength for me, but I promise you this afternoon it will be. We actually, next year, will be celebrating our centennial birthday of Extension nationally, and believe it or not, we have had a presence here in Cuyahoga County for over 75 years, and thank you for your continued support for allowing us to be here and serve our residents. I have a handout, a double-sided handout, if you want to follow with me. What I'll do quickly is highlight, we really focus on 4 impact areas here in the county. What's important to note is we do this through research-based education. We do it through many, many county and community partnerships, and we do it with the focus on what the greatest needs are in Cuyahoga County. So our first area, looking at preparing our youth for success, we are so honored to serve the very talented members, teenagers of the county's Youth Advocacy and Leadership Coalition. Last year, we had 22 seniors. 100% of them graduated. We've been following them for 3 years. Not only did they graduate from high school, but they are maintaining at the proper grades and moving ahead. And all 22 of those are now enrolled in 4-year degree-seeking colleges or universities. We also we celebrated our 10th year last year with the Cleveland Metro Parks. We've talked about opportunities for our youth to do good things with that extra time that they have. This partnership focuses with youth to use the outdoors as a classroom. So whether it's through hiking or biking or rock climbing, we teach them important life skills and career skills. We also work with 2 county departments, Family and Children's Services and Juvenile Justice. We have a program called Preparing to Launch, where we help the teens aging out of the foster care system to have career plans and important life skills to be able to go on to whatever they're pursuing next in life. And then with the Juvenile Justice Center, our specific focus is to help expose those youth to the myriad of career paths that are available and help them to have a career plan so when they leave there, they know what they're headed to next in life. And looking at strengthening families and communities, this is now the 8th year of the Cleveland-Cuyahoga Food Policy Coalition. It has been dubbed one of the top 3 by the Centers for Disease Control in fighting obesity and chronic disease. We have co-convened that with Case Western Reserve University. This whole year has been spent on strategic planning, and we're next to take this important coalition. Hopefully you're shopping at farmers markets. When I was here 2 years ago, I think I reported that we had 13 of them in the county, 33 farmers markets this summer. We know that it's exploding nationally. Through funding leveraged by 9 private sources, 6 local foundations, a statewide one, and 2 national ones, we have launched the Produce Perks EBT incentive program. So we really support our food assistance customers in going to the farmers market. If they use their Ohio Direction card, they could leverage an additional $10 to shop there. This summer alone, 267 residents that receive food assistance benefits went to the farmers markets for the first time. We find that to be an important outcome. We've also launched program prescriptions in partnership with healthcare providers. That's Metro, Neon, the County Board of Health, and Cleveland Department of Public Health. We're actually using doctors now to issue a voucher, or otherwise known as a prescription, to expectant parents to be able to help them and encourage them to eat healthier food, hoping to have a healthier birth outcome. Sadly, in our county and nationally now, we have one of the highest rates of infant mortality, so this is our way to address that. We also, again, work with Case Western Reserve. We are one of the lead agencies with their Prevention Research Center. We have a lot of these interventions. We're trying to study how well they're working and what outcomes we're achieving from them. We're also proud that just recently we were noted on the County Health Alliance website for our worksite wellness that we do. We do a lot of health and nutrition education, so we wanted to show that we practice what we preach. And looking at enhancing agriculture and the environment, hopefully when you think of OSU Extension or see the over 280 community gardens that exist in our county now, you may think of us. We're really proud that this is pretty unbelievable. They're producing close to $3.2 million worth of fresh produce every season. 90% of the gardeners are saying that they're eating less fast food, and 78% of them are saying that they're actually able to stretch their grocery bills and be what we call food secure through the month, meaning that they don't go without food because of what they're growing in those gardens. And these gardens are everywhere. They're in neighborhoods, they're associated with schools, with homeless shelters, with churches, with synagogues. We have a very broad definition of community. We also have supported 55 new local food businesses. So when we talk about jobs, new jobs are coming about through urban agriculture. We have the new Cleveland Chicken Project that will come in early next year. We'll have fresh eggs here. We have individuals that are growing lavender and have started their own soap and perfume company. A little different from what some might think, but definitely new economic development for us. We're also leading the Farm to School, and in 2014, we're adding early care and education to that. And this initiative looks at getting more healthy food into the environment where our kids are. So the hope is that when we get to them at those younger ages and help support healthier food in our schools, that we will have that healthy trajectory for our kids. We also are part and very proudly of Cleveland's 26.5-acre urban agriculture innovation zone in the Kinsman neighborhood. We have a 6-acre farm there known as the Kinsman Farm, and we have 13 new local food businesses that have come to be just on that site there. We also continue to have a strong Master Gardener volunteer program. They donate about 10,000 hours every year They're working in schools with children, they're mentoring community gardens, they're doing horticulture therapy with some of our healthcare providers. And looking at advancing employment and income opportunities, probably something that we're most proud of is the partnership with the County Board of Developmental Disabilities and their nonprofit arm, Solutions at Work, Inc. We are very proudly now housed in the Terrence M. Ryan Agriculture Education Center at Standard Farm. We have supported and training their consumers, 46 of whom have been hired. This is a population that is usually unemployed or very underemployed with new jobs in urban agriculture. They have about 42 acres now that are under cultivation or being prepped for cultivation around the county. Shady Road Farm in Olmsted Township, the Stearns Farm in Parma.
We need it to go a little briefer, okay?
Okay, a little briefer.
Yes, please.
We're working with them to add an addition on to the new Agriculture Center, a Food Innovation Center. We will be inviting you to come and tour it next year, where we will be processing this local food. And another exciting thing, we know that we're only eating less than 3% of the food that is grown or processed here in the county. So we received a $75,000 grant to study a sustainable food business cluster, because we know that many, many more jobs and new economic development opportunities can be available here. You have a little picture. We are who we are because of our partnerships. We're very proud to be a part of the county fabric. On the back side, just a little depiction of our budget. What's important to note, about 52% of our budget is the traditional federal, state, and local county dollars. The rest is through private funds and grants and contracts. And then I have a little bit on the outcomes we're achieving and different partnerships that we're involved in. And again, it really is a privilege. Our office, 25 FTEs, the largest in the state. We love being here and we love serving our residents. So thank you for the continued support.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions? Councilman Germana and Ms. Connell.
I'm just wondering, I see that this was budgeted under the levies previously, now it's going to the general fund. I just don't understand that.
Councilman, we shifted the funding from levy to general fund as recommended for 14 and 15. Historically, we actually provided the $247,000 subsidy to the extension via general fund dollars. Maybe 4 or 5 years back, we had shifted to levy. And as part of our recommended reductions within the levy fund, we had recommended shifting funding back to the general fund. So it's still the same amount going from the county to the extension, but we're recommending reverting back to general fund dollars for the extension's subsidy.
Okay.
What's the reason?
We had to make reductions in the levy side. So this is one of our recommended reductions.
Director, on that point, is this something that you think that it fits better under the general fund, or if the levy were to pass, would you recommend putting it back on the levy side?
I'm probably 50-50 on that. I think maybe some additional discussion would be merited. I could see either way. You can make a good case for either. Historically, the balance has been, general fund has actually provided that subsidy, but it's a very easy case to make that perhaps it should revert or remain in the levy funding if the levy passes. So I think you have a good case for both. So I'd welcome discussion. I think either way, we'll be providing that funding, and we can make that decision in a few weeks.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Simon, no, who was next?
Questions fast, and I don't expect an answer now. I just really want information about all the actual, our money going toward animal production, whether it's chicken or cows or what we're doing with that, okay? So if I can get some feedback on how this money's being spent with live animals.
How part of this appropriation from the county's being spent?
If you can differentiate that. And I don't need an answer now because we need to move on.
Okay, thank you. I'll get back with you on that.
Through the chair, just, and you can get back with us on this, the fresh produce grown, is that a cost? You said the community school gardens grow over $3 million, and you can send us a reply. And are you working with local hunger shelters in regards to that?
Definitely. In fact, about 75% of the community gardens have a formal partnership, whether it's with a local church, a Meals on Wheels program, or a hunger shelter. So yes, the donating part is very much ingrained within the community gardening program and happens regularly.
You've had conversations with the Cleveland Food Bank?
Yes,
Okay.
they've been an incredible partner.
Any further questions on extension? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, since we're not voting on anything, can we proceed if one of my colleagues needs to leave for an important reason?
To the law department, can we take testimony without a quorum?
Yes, unless you're voting on something or taking a formal action, you can continue
Okay.
without a quorum.
Okay. Okay.
Is that something I said?
Mr. Chairman, if I may just add also that this testimony will be on YouTube, so any council members who have not been able to see it can go to the council's website and see it.
That's exciting. I think I'm going to watch it again. That's great news.
And we have Pat McDonald, Board of Elections.
Great.
And I would just remind you, the presentation looks long, and the intent here is not to fully present one's agency. It's to talk about your budget. So I would ask you and everybody else who's listening to keep that in mind.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on our budget today. Basically, it stands as written. We're asking for a $17 million fiscal year 2014 and a $15 million 2015 budget. It's a continuation of operating an operation budget with two new things added in, but is on deferral to the capital budget if we go through with the pilot programs for the e-poll books and for the high-speed scanners that are currently under cost-benefit analysis. This budget accounts for, as I said, a continuation. It's a smaller budget than we've operated in the past biennial. Due to, I think, some savings in the ballot printing, as well as the negative thing, but it's no vote by mail being sent out by the Board of Elections, but the Secretary of State's office now will be providing it in the next gubernatorial election. So if you don't have any questions, then please take this testimony as written.
Okay. Questions?
Just a question on the last weekend before the elections. That's a state prohibition now against being open? That's not something we could subsidize to allow that to happen?
This current year you can, and we have. We're open this weekend from 9 to 2 on Saturday and noon to 5 on Sunday for extended voting. So currently, and for 2014, it has not been mandated the last weekend hours, but there is legislation being discussed.
But there's no prohibition, is there?
No, there is not.
So is there an idea of what the cost would be for 14 to keep? Is that in this budget?
That is
to enable
in the
us?
budget.
So we have the money to fund the last weekend before
Absolutely.
the election to be great.
Yeah, so we do have funding for early voting for the last weekend in 14 for the whole extended voting hours in 14 and 15 and in-house voting.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Councilman Greenspan?
Is there anything that verbal or written you've asked for that you didn't receive?
No, sir.
Okay. On the Haley building, no, just kidding, another discussion another day.
Anything else? Okay.
Great, thank you.
Got off easy.
Yes, I did.
And We are at 5 o'clock. Are people able to stay? We don't?
I've got 15 minutes max.
Okay, well, let's plow through. County Planning Commission. Glenn Coyne.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I've distributed a handout. I'm not going to go through a PowerPoint on the computer, but you should have it in front of you. I just wanted to highlight that this year has been one of transition for us. I started new in December of 2012, so I have not yet been through the budget process yet. This is my first time. Our board, the Planning Commission board, adopted a new work plan, and you've already heard today from Larry Benders. We're contributing to the Year 3 Economic Development Plan, and we're doing quite a bit with the Office of Regional Collaboration as well. And we're also outreaching to the communities in the county and improving our relationships with external partners. And just the other night, we did, for example, a Planning 101 course in the West Shore communities and had over 40 people where we went out and talked about the basics of planning and zoning. So we're really trying that outreach to get our visibility up. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about and the most impact on our budget is our internal HR management efforts. And you'll see that reflected in our presentation. But we have overall just under $1.5 million budget. We have 17 people. So personnel costs are by and large the most significant part of our budget. Again, we provide services to the communities and to other county departments. And we do charge for services for things that we provide outside. So this year in both the 2014 and 2015 budget, we've been asked to bring in another extra $125,000 from outside sources. So those would be for contracts we provide services, could be grants, could be with other departments. So for us, that counts as outside revenue. We do have 2 changes to this year's budget that we're looking to implement, and that is along the lines of the extensive work we've done with our staffing. We have a new organizational chart. We've been through every single job description. We've looked at every position and right-sized that position. And our Planning Commission just October 10th approved our plan, which was basically a 2% change in our salaries to implement what we're calling the right sizing of all of our folks. And that is something that's been long overdue. We have people on our staff that haven't had an evaluation in over 20 years. So nor have had their position looked at. So it's been deferred maintenance that we've caught up on. The other thing we need to do is upgrade our website. Yes, excuse me.
And is that 2 percentage point adjustment, is that provided, is it included in the budget or was it not approved?
I believe it's been included in the adjustment in the 2013 budget. We had some capacity left from unfilled positions.
So is it carried over into the 2014-15 budget?
My expectation is that it is, yes. I'd have to look to the OMB folks, but
okay.
The printout I saw did take care of that, as well as the next item, which is the upgrade of our website, which I know other departments have brought up to you as well. There is one program we are eliminating. That is the Cuyahoga Valley Initiative. We actually had a separate sub-fund for that, and we've decided to just fold in the remaining work into our regular budget and not have that act as a separate sub-fund. We will be doing some selected work that will continue. So therefore, we decertified about $22,000 worth of contracts that were dormant and weren't moving forward. And there's also some unobligated funds there that you can see the figure 159, which we will hopefully be able to reprogram. We're working with the budget folks on that. So looking ahead to our 14 and 15 budget, as I mentioned, personnel costs are about 85% of our budget. We provide services with our staff. We are increasing our revenue expectation. And then to anticipate the question that's been asked all day, I went ahead and included it on the slide. And we did request additional funds so that we could carry forward a fund for future evaluation and merit-based increases to our staff as they're earned. Also to increase training and replace a few of our computers. And again, all of that went before the Planning Commission Board on October 10th. So that's it. Hopefully I answered the questions that we were supposed to cover, and I'll be happy to answer any more.
Councilman Greenspan.
Great, thank you. So in your last request, was it fulfilled? Is that money included in your budget?
No,
or
sir.
Yeah, it is?
It's not.
It's not, okay. Go to that. The, you said that there was that you've been asked to bring another $125,000. Was that from your board that requested that, kind of that goal to perform more outreach, or where did that come from?
No, I think it was a reflection of the work that we've got scheduled already looking
Okay.
into 2014, and that the budgeting reflecting some of the large projects that
But you
that
drove
we have
that.
contracts for.
You drove that.
It was a joint, us driving it with the budget, putting together the budget, and how that was reflected in our revenue. Yes, sir.
Okay. And the CBI, why was it eliminated from the budget?
Well, Councilman, I was just uncomfortable with us having two distinct sub-funds without any other reason other than that was a project that previous leadership felt like it needed its own budget. It's just a work program for us now, and I just folded it in under our regular
So the
account.
service is being performed and not being eliminated. You're just kind
That's
of
correct. It's
cleaning
much
that.
reduced focus, but it's just not going to be its separate.
Perfect.
Bookkeeping with another whole fund it just
Yep.
was too complicated.
Is that what previously was the merger study?
No, sir. That was basically a lot of environmental planning along the Cuyahoga River and the associated valley.
I see, okay. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. And you've been here a long time and patient. Thank you.
It's always good
Shelley-
going last.
Shelley Davis, Board of Revision.
Good evening. I've been the administrator since May of 2012. I can tell you our budget's going to come in a little under, about $415,000. Some of that results from projections of downsizing one of the hearing boards, some personnel vacancies, paper consumption, and we have quite a reduction in space maintenance cost. The budget also accounts for one new hire full-time, and we are funded 100% by REA.
Okay.
In the essence of saving time, I thought I would just stick to the budget.
That was great. Thank you. We're open for questions.
Just, Mr. Chair, I see there's a note here. The proposed charter amendment, how will that impact it? This budget's prepared, obviously, I would assume based on the current structure. If the charter amendment passes, how would this
Well,
be
it's
impacted?
twofold, depending on if it does pass and what the actual voting members decide, whether to go with consultants as hearing members, that can actually hear the cases. I would not be paying for holidays, benefits, vacation pay, and so forth. They would just be hired as a consultant. There is some cost savings certainly with that approach. And also, I think you need a core at least of 4 full-time boards of county employees, because this county will always need at least 4 boards operating.
I'm sorry, repeat. So are you saying that there will be 4 boards that will be employees and then additional consulting boards?
That's
is
what I
you-
would think. And then you don't know, because the deadline to file complaints is March 31st next year. You don't know what the influx is going to be. So to project for something you don't know, that's where I think if you stick with like at least 4 boards as a core, and then you could contract for additional support, and then as you don't need them, then you can let them go.
So your recommendation then as the administrator to the statutory board would be to hire 4 boards permanently, assuming 1 commercial, 1 industrial, 2 resident, however.
Yeah, I actually like to mix them all up. I think they should be well-rounded enough. Any
Okay.
board could hear any kind of complaint.
And then the other boards be hired as needed on a consulting
Yes.
basis. Thank you.
Do you agree that the amendment enables the board to tailor the hearing boards better to the workload?
I do.
Yeah, okay, great. Ms. Conwell?
Through the chair, just looking at the personal services, it says reduce 1 board in late 2014. Currently, we have 7?
Yes.
We have 7 boards? Okay, so this would reduce 1 and we'd have 6, is that?
Yes.
Basically what it's saying. So how far are we, have we caught up with the backlog?
We have, when I hired in, I brought a camera in the second day and took photos because I couldn't believe it. which I did a PowerPoint of those photos. We were over 2,000 cases non-compliant with the state of Ohio on appeals. There was a past practice that they really just threw them somewhere, and then when they would call looking for them, they would do them. By statute, you have to do it within 45 days. So the state wrote me a couple letters saying they were going to hit monetary sanctions for failure to do these. So that's why we brought in some of these part-time people over the course of the last 18 months. Also, in May of 2012, when I hired in, we were still hearing cases for 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2011. We are completely caught up. I am 70% already heard for this year only. So I have no backlog. I am 100% compliant with all my appeals for 2012. We get them down there on time, and we just wrapped up catching up on the 2,000 cases that I was severely delinquent in.
Okay, and what about, is the delinquent ones, were that 2013?
Well, we deal tax year, so 2012 is for 2013. The 2012-13 appeals, we are caught up. We've been compliant since day one on those.
So if you're recommending 4 boards as a core, why are we just reducing 1 instead of going down 3?
Well, because right now I still have probably 40%. It's going to take me through March, I'm guessing, to wrap it up. We normally don't hear during Christmas and New Year's. We back off a little on Thanksgiving. The move was a factor. Next year, the move will be a factor. So you look at some downtime, and I'm still projecting another 15,000 complaints next year.
So the calendar year goes, because you keep mentioning March as a...
Ohio
what's the
Revised
calendar?
Code, I can only accept the complaints from January 1 through March 31st. So everyone waits till that last 2 weeks to file their complaints. So I don't know how many I'll get.
Thank you.
Can you refresh our memory as to when the terms of the existing boards finish?
The majority of them will cease around January, but there was a staggering of when they were hired. Some of them will go into April because of the employment time or the fact that they needed to hire additional boards. So it's not that all their terms expire in January. January, February, March, and then like 2 are in April.
So over the first 3 or 4 months of next year, you have a chance to kind of realign things as these boards expire and determine what we need going forward. Is that correct?
Yes, and a lot of it will be based on what happens with the general election.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
Just a general statement, Mr. Chair. I think at some point, not for this committee, but in general, and I wish the council president was here, we should probably have, assuming with the charter amendment passing, an organizational meeting or a download from the director on how the transition is going to take place and how things are going to happen. Obviously, the statutory board's going to have to make some decisions, be paneled, make some decisions, but this transition, we should probably sometime in January have a meeting, I would imagine.
Or mid-December.
Right.
That sounds like an excellent idea. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we had a bit of a rally and 15 minutes behind schedule, but we did finish it and don't have to come back on Wednesday, which I don't think anyone really wanted to do. Yes, the 5 of us that are still here get stars, plus the clerk and the law department and the staff. And the ones that are still here, they get gold stars. Is there a motion? Has anyone signed in for public comment unrelated?
No one has signed in to speak.
I didn't think so, but I wanted to ask. Is there a motion to adjourn?
You can't vote.
Second?
You can't vote. You just
We
need to
can't
adjourn.
No, we're allowed to adjourn.
Without
That-
objection, right? You just need to adjourn without objection.
Without objection, we're adjourned. But we are allowed, that it is one of the few things under Robert's rules that you are allowed to do.